What's up, party people? We back with another episode with Nick, Jara,
What's up?
and me, Ethan.
Nothing, man.
And today, we're gonna be talking about can dudes be dudes in front of other dudes without being less of a dude?
Yeah.
Okay, or in other words,
There's no other words.
oh, okay. No, yeah, there is. that's just a funny way we put it when we were talking about this topic. It's pretty much how to be secure in front of other men, I guess, and how to be vulnerable with each other,
Right.
be more,
Yeah, and that
like-
being like less manly if you did do that.
yeah, and like
Right.
Does
Breaking
that make you
that-
less?
breaking that.
Yeah.
Oh, just because you're a man doesn't mean you can't like share about your emotions.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
how we
I
feeling
think
about
this
that?
is a good topic considering that a lot of, all men, mostly all men, go through this, and I guess all the women also would like to know why, we struggle with this being like close to our mates and stuff like that. Because the only time that we actually really get to be vulnerable is with our partners, right? Which is weird, and even some of us struggle to do that. So it's like, where did we lose that from the beginning, from our childhood? How did we become this way? Not saying we're gonna have a huge deep dive, but we're just gonna like kind of like dabble a little and talk about our experiences and yeah. So like in terms of being secure, a secure male in yourself and whatnot, your identity. What does that look like to you guys?
Yeah, well, I guess we can go further back before we answer that
Okay,
question, right?
okay,
In
yeah.
terms of growing up,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think an ideal image of a man is?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. True.
What was if you thought of this guy as like the man, like what would that encompass? Like what would that be?
Right. Well, I mean, it would probably be like the likes of Jason Momoa, Channing Tatum, Henry Cavill. You know, you know what I mean? Like those are men. You know?
No, I think we're all the same. Well,
I mean, back then,
I
this is not my current view.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
growing up,
I
right?
grew up like really liking ice hockey. I never really watched it, but I was just really into like the sport and like how the guys portrayed themselves. Strong values, just held by the values, even though it didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
It's just that they just had values that they held on to and just they never really back down.
Right. Just
On
be
it.
manly.
Yeah, just be manly,
Just punching it
just
up.
punching it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
just being huge.
Yeah, no, I think it's the same. I think for me, a lot of the time, I grew up with thoughts of like the male figure, the guy, the man. It's just this strong dude, big, like not big, but is able to just lead and able to just handle everything, always in control, never lacking, and like, yeah, just like sound. And then it led into like, like sayings like men don't cry because it's just tough. Like, you don't want to be weak. You don't want to show any kind of weakness because you're meant to be that example or the shoulder for people to rely on and to lean on. So that was my idea of, growing up to be like, if you want to be a strong like male, that's what it is. And so then I brought it up because I think I realized it changed how I grew up because I always thought that was it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't really show emotions. I'm always trying to be the best at like everything. I always thought I'd be tough to be respected by other guys and also to be like the best so that if I ever had a partner or I had people under me, that they can rely on me because they know I won't be shaken.
Yeah,
I won't
that's
be
true.
emotional about things. I'm like, I can protect and lead. And so, yeah, so that's why I just thought it would be interesting for us to bring up because obviously the way that we think are all kind of similar because we all grew up potentially watching the same kind of shows or social media or like influential like male like characters. So we always thought that this is what it's meant to be. But I think now we're talking about it because we realize that may not be the healthiest way of how a guy should actually live
now.
because it could create a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And it creates a lot of unhealthy like mental things that you feel that you have to uphold even though it may not be actually right. So yeah, so then going back to your question, which I forgot about what.
That's okay because I was going to remind you anyway.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. It's just what is your current, I guess because we talked about the past perception of manlyhood or masculinity. What is your current view on that now? What makes a secure man in your today? What does that look like?
I think one that comes to the top of my head is being secure in their process. I think they're like, I mean, it's just like the saying, we all go at different paces, right? And I think what I find now a real man is being okay with what you have at the moment, but still striving for more, if that makes sense. So like, I guess like Nick said, like back then as well, like we all used to always think like, oh, you have to be the best at everything, be like the greatest at everything, as a man. So that's what I thought it was as well. But I think as I'm starting to grow up, like yeah, we're all going at different paces, and I saw like real like, I guess like people who may not be the best at what they do, but are just so secure in where they are at the moment, and still striving for more, and still like finding different ways to grow, even though they may not be the best at things. I find that that's like my perception now on like what a real man looks like. That's like just yeah, keep going without like really like being bothered by like others. I guess yeah. Well, that's one thing at least that came to the top of my head. I'll think of more maybe.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nick?
Well, for me, I think one thing I realized a lot since growing up now is that because of the way I thought about what a guy should be, I grew up to be the biggest emotional dud. Like, I'm not emotional at all. I don't really know how to connect emotionally. And it's crazy because we've been youth leaders for almost like 10 years now, right? And I was like, but that's such an emotional thing because when people open up, but I realized when it came to that, I would always handball it to people around me, and I'll come in when it was like, how can I help you go forward stage rather than connecting on that emotional stage? Because if someone asks me like, how are you? I'm like, I'm all right. I don't really know how to go further from that because I don't allow myself to process that. And I realized because of that, I couldn't connect with people on that deeper level because I just don't know what to ask. You know, it's like, are you all right? And then you tell me, yeah, I'm good. You know, like thumbs up, end of conversation, we move on. And so what I realized like growing up now is what actually makes a man like stronger or better is actually being able to be emotionally like vulnerable. Doesn't mean that you're sharing all your sad stories and stuff. It's not that, but it's just being more in tune with how you actually feel and how you communicate that. For me, is what actually is really healthy, like for a guy, especially to do, especially if you're meant to lead like other girl, like women, or your partner, or your families, or your friends, or in whatever industry you're in. It's so important because at the end of the day, we're all people and we need to connect. And if you are someone that can't connect on that level, then naturally you won't ever be able to lead people properly because you'll never understand. And so I think from a guy being able to share that, it's like what the dude with the dude and the dude and the dude. It's like it doesn't make you any it doesn't make you any less. But it actually makes you more because then you're able to kind of connect on a deeper level. But in saying that though, I still struggle. Like if it wasn't for year one of people like barraging me with like different types of questions, I wouldn't actually be able to like bring it out. Sometimes she has to ask me very specific questions because she knows like what I might want to say already to help me say it. Because if not, I just wouldn't. Because I still come back to it where I can catch myself sometimes, like if I'm watching a movie or a sermon and I get really like emotional about a movie, I can feel the tears coming. But I also realize the moment when my brain just switches and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I don't feel anything. You know, it's actually quite crazy.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, but like that's how I feel like that's how deep it's gone in my head because I actually had a conversation with like Yoan once. I was like, am I actually like a sociopath? Like, is that the emotional one? Yeah, like I actually don't feel anything. So like sometimes when people are crying in front of me, right, I realize I was such a dud in a way where someone's crying, I feel bad. But at the same time, not really. I'm just like, cool, you know, I'm sad for you, but I don't feel anything. And so it actually made me realize like, wow, I could actually be potentially a sociopath.
Now, do you think that's because of the way you grew up?
Yeah, I think as I digged, I realized it's because I emotionally shut off like that part completely. Because my idea as a guy, it's like, I won't get emotionally distorted about what's right and what's wrong. And so I would always know what is right and wrong, but I always disregard how the person may feel. I'm just like, I know you feel this way, but this is actually the right thing to do. And that's where I realized in the last few years as a leader in youth and stuff, that's how I hurt so many people. Because no one, like, if it really comes down to it, people already know what is right and what's the right thing to do. They just sometimes just want someone to be there. I was the opposite. I was like, hey, I'm here for you, so I'm going to tell you what is right or wrong. But that ends up like hurting a lot of people. And so that, I guess in
Mhm.
long story short, for me, I was just being emotionally open
Mm.
is one thing that I find that's like really healthy for a guy.
True.
Very healthy for a guy.
Yeah, healthy or like it just that's what is a healthy image of what a guy a
Yeah.
male is.
No, it's
Yeah.
fact, man. Because I think male friendships are based mostly on assumptions. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
because we never really talk about things. We just assume things from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just reminded of a time when we met at one time, like not long ago. We went to Bob Joe.
Uh,
And like, we just had a good chat. And it's just like all
Fried
these
chicken.
assumptions I was building in my mind was like false. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, because we never really talk. And I think that stems from like pride, obviously. It's like, I don't want to be the guy that wants to be the emotional dude,
Mm.
to be that one, to make the first move.
Yeah.
You kind of just want it to come naturally. And this is someone coming from me that I think I'm pretty self aware and in tune with my emotions. But then, like, it's like things with male friendships, navigating through that specifically, because I can be like that with anyone else. You know, like any girl, woman, whatever. Like the opposite sex is easy to do, right? For us, we can all relate.
Yeah, it's
somewhat.
because for like girls they aren't
Yeah,
just better emotionally and learning how to express that.
yeah.
And so for a guy, because you can't do it to another guy,
No, yeah.
it's a lot easier to do it to a girl,
But-
to a girl.
Going to his, can dudes be dudes? And
Yeah.
going back to that,
The dudes
answering
and the
that
dudes.
question, because the thing is like, it's also different because we're the dudes, right? But
Yeah.
then if you're talking to like your youth kids, it's different. I can be vulnerable
Oh yeah.
with them.
It's
Yeah,
way
yeah.
But when
easier.
it comes to your mates, it's like it's a bit harder to do so, and it's a weird thing that we have. It's not even a rule. It's just a weird thing that just takes place early days, and we just kind of it's just ingrained, and we don't really
Yeah.
talk about our feelings and emotions. We just assume, and it's just very strange. But anyways, I like to answer the question of like what I think like a modern day secure man, what they would look like, is actually what Dan told us after that time we had the podcast about masculinity. Like,
Oh,
he,
yeah?
he did send me an email, but I have not remembered them off by heart. But there are a few virtues that he said that was like, whoa, what?
Yeah, so far. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
but one of them was like, having self-control, like things
Mm.
like this. I'm like, whoa, okay, self-control and leadership and like things like that. I was like,
Yep.
okay, that's true. Like
Mhm.
that. It's the things that we don't really amplify enough in media, even though we all like the whole like, yeah, toxic masculinity, let's all start crying now. It's like, yeah, sure, but there's a time and place for that as well.
Yeah.
But it's because I still agree that men should have to lead in a certain type of way, and like like, yes, we can feel our emotions, but in certain situations we can't do that right now, but we can do it later. You know what I mean? It's just learning how to process that. Anyways, I don't know if I'm going off a tangent. I
it's
probably
good.
am going off a tangent, but like, yeah. Anyways, what I reckon is like, yeah, someone that has, well, if I had to pick a virtue, it would be self-control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, self-control is a pretty big one. I think like just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Ooh.
It's
yeah,
true.
like it's that you can totally like destroy someone,
Mm.
but it may not be the right thing to do. And I
Mhm.
think naturally, if like the way I bringing back to how I was brought up again, if I could, I would, because I need to build my like presence,
Mm.
over you, and to be like, yo, I'm gonna tell you like this is it, because from a guy to another guy, you need to know. But
Mm.
then I would just do it in a way that like lacks that kind of self-control. It's just more like I'm just going to say it as it is, disregarding any kind of emotional thing, anything at all of the other person. And I feel like if guys learn how to do this, I think we will be able to honestly lead a lot better in our friendships, in our relationships, and all
100%,
these
man.
things,
Yeah.
because all these things add up to that. But I also feel like it brings the homies like closer,
For sure.
because
Yeah.
yeah.
Nah, you always have those nights where all the boys, it's just, you talk, those
Yeah.
deep chats.
We
and the
don't
road
always have
trip
to
and
wait
everything.
for the
Yeah,
environment
it
to
is
be
true.
like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, back then it's
We're-
always
we're
the
quite
sleepovers.
Yeah, we're quite dependent on those.
Yeah. I think a big thing would be like, I think it is. I think it all stems from pride. You don't want to show like weakness to your mate. You don't want to be like, oh, like you don't want to be a burden to them. But it's not even that. I feel like now more so it's you don't want to seem that you're doing worse than them in life. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the culture now. Like with guys, it's just I have a really stable job right now. I'm getting paid this and this much and everything, and you don't want to say like, how you're going, because you just feel like, oh, like I look like sucky in comparatively. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I feel like that's where like the security like starts to like, and the assumptions be like,
And
oh,
you-
like I don't
like
wanna be
adding
any
to your
different.
point, I think it's also kind of like you don't know how your friends will react.
Mm.
Because you can be really good homies because you're playing sports together, you play games, you do all this stuff, but you never really had like a chat, but you don't know how that's gonna go. Because we definitely know some people that open up and then the boys just roast them, you
Yeah,
know,
so
like
that's true.
because it's just banter, it's funny, but then. So even if you want to, you don't really know how your friends would react to it, and that can be also quite intimidating.
Mm.
Because then it's like, oh, now everyone knows, he's the softie in the group. And it's like, even though if you have the right mindset of what a healthy image of a guy should be, not every guy thinks like that.
Mm.
And not everyone thinks
true.
that. Because
Yeah.
if you look at social media, you look at everything, everyone tells you, yes, like toxic masculinity is bad, but then being too soft, it's gone so far now, like to a point where people just start making fun of it. Like there is no balance in the healthy of both. Of like what's like a healthy masculine side, but what's also a healthy emotional side. Because you can't just lash out at everyone and be so emotional about everything either. There needs
Okay.
to be a balance of both.
Yeah.
You have a question? I have a question. Unless you
Okay.
have one.
I don't have a question. It was just more like going off your point about you saying that you feel like oh, I don't want to seem like I don't have my house in order. That's why I don't want to be vulnerable with
Yeah.
my other boys. But for me, I think from my point of view is that I actually feel like that they wouldn't care to listen. Yeah, which is interesting because I was thinking about like that. I was like, oh, I don't really relate to that, but I relate more on like I don't think they care to listen. Because like I think with some males, it's very apparent in our gender that we gender. I don't know what I'm talking about. No DNA. I don't know. But it's like we like to compartmentalize things, And I know friends that like they want to be close to their mates, but then they also want to keep it the boys. You know what I mean? They want to keep it fun. They don't want to talk about these
casual.
things. And so they talk about all that emotional stuff with their girlfriend, which is like heavy on their own relationship as well, rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? Because there are some things that you can hash out with your friends. Was what I've come to realize in this season that I'm in. But yeah, anyways.
And there's only so much that your girlfriend can actually relate to or do because it's different.
Yeah.
The dynamics of like a girl friendship or boyfriend girlfriend is so different to the boys. Like literally.
It's true. I think
Yeah.
there should be a balance in all
100%.
things. Like
100%,
you
yeah.
should be able to hash it out. But at the same time, like you have to know when, maybe it's not that deep. Maybe I don't have to like tell my friends everything. But at the same time, yeah, you should tell them if you're struggling
Yeah.
or like if you think they're struggling at times. Like, you tell me if my breast stinks, Raja.
What?
You tell me if my breast stinks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but some people won't because they're like, oh, I feel bad. No, it's true. I feel like that's where I sometimes know, like, that's a true friend. Like, he would be okay with my emotions, even though I feel a little embarrassed. My breast stinks or anything, but Jared knows it's for my own good. If that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I think like men can actually build each other up in that aspect.
But what was your question?
Yeah, my question was like, if you could like take away or like I guess say what you don't like about I guess right now's culture of masculinity, what would it be?
Oh, the red pill men, the
Oh.
alpha males. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? I guess like for people who don't understand what the red pill men.
What I mean by that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the values like they're like overcompensating to the next extreme. Where it's like, yeah, I agree that men should know their worth and value too, but then it's like, why are we treating women that way? I'm not that guy. Okay, I'm not trying to be that guy. It's like, yeah, like what do you like those TikToks? How they go again? It's like, oh, I didn't see you there. It's like I was like, yeah, like women's rights. Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
Hey. I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, there's like, are you confused?
I'm just It's like what TikToks are these? Like
No, it was a trend. Anyways,
But
doesn't
yeah,
matter. But where was I going with this? Alpha males, right? Like,
yeah, red pill.
I don't know. I think the way that they're pushing masculinity is a bit. I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel right to me. It feels.
What
every
doesn't
man
seem
should-
right?
I don't know. Like there are some things where you could take from and be like, yeah, that's true. Like we should gun for what our dreams and desires are and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's a lot of inward stuff, like looking into self and like putting us over and like taking that extreme of like hierarchy as well, like really putting that out there, and, like treating people differently and weird. I don't know, but like we should always be pointing ourselves to Jesus, right? Not to ourselves. Like, but anyways, that's just like my thing. But that's I can't really like talk more on that right now. But that's if you, I mean, you ask me a question, this is my answer. Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think?
Honestly, I haven't really thought of that question. I feel like It's both, right? You get the super alpha guys, everything's like, oh, gym, big, you know,
Yeah.
that stuff. It's like more normal to me because I think I grew up just in that sporting environment, just thinking that's it. But at the same time, I don't know why, but it really triggers me still when we push this whole like, let's be super emotional and blah,
Yeah,
blah.
there
Because
has to
for
be a
me, it's like,
balance.
it's just too far on either end.
Mm.
And I feel like it creates an unhealthy balance either way.
Mm.
And so for me, it's just when I get any of these, it just all ticks me off sometimes
Mm.
because I feel like there needs to be like that's why I really like your point of like self-control. It's like really good because I think the best way to describe it like that like came to me was just like with the character of like Joseph, right, in the Bible.
Mm.
That guy literally got destroyed by his brothers, his whole family, went to slave, got accused by everybody, and then when he finally rose to like power, he like forgave and he
Mhm.
just let it all go.
Mm.
I think to me that is like a huge thing about what a healthy guy like
Mm.
Yeah.
is, right?
That's
It's
true.
like you're secure in who you are. You're not looking to get revenge and out people and do
Mm.
this, even though and it's like that control that he has, knowing that who God is in his life and what would God do
Mm.
and what would Jesus do at the time. And I think for him, it's like portraying that level of control,
Mm.
but also being able to forgive and like emotionally like connect back, you know, to his family and keeping what's important for me. It's like such a big
Yeah.
thing.
And he definitely feel good too, like to get like
Yeah,
say
it-
something back to his brothers.
Yeah,
or,
and
like,
you can tell that it's
yeah.
not from a place like I want to be better than
Yeah,
you
exactly.
and show you like,
That's a good
look, I'm
point.
giving you, I'm doing to you what you never did to me and you would never.
Exactly.
But it's like out of that healthy kind of perspective of like who God is in his life
Mm.
and what God expects from him as a
Sure.
guy to
Yeah.
lead, but humbly, lovingly,
Yeah.
like with forgiveness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, is like what a guy should really do, to be honest, in
Yeah.
this. But it's hard.
Yeah.
I agree
Especially
heavy
going
on
through it
that.
too.
No, for sure. I think
Yeah.
for me it's like kind of what you said, but it would be more like I think do you know like the saying I have no enemies?
Yes,
On
I know
TikTok
it,
and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I think where that stuck out for me is because how I interpret it. It's like I guess going back to like that story about how he came from like brothers where like they're abusing him, and then he got up to like power. He never really tore anyone down, and I think that's the culture now. It's like you have so many enemies when you're going up into
Yeah.
the ranks. If you're doing your job, your enemies, your coworkers, because you want to get to a higher status, or if you want that girl, you might be going against other men. So the other men are your enemies, and you have to get better at everyone. And pretty
Yeah.
much being masculine means disrespecting everyone else. And
It's like, yeah.
and it went to the extreme of like you actually disrespect women. That women are actually lower, and you have to feel that you're better than women, and that they are something else to be conquered.
It's kind of like the alpha,
Exactly.
alpha male mindset,
It's an-
right?
it's
Yeah.
an-
It's just
It's almost like it's something you want, so that's your enemy,
Yeah.
and you want something from them,
Yeah.
and you will do whatever it takes.
it's like I'm the guy. I need
Exactly.
to do what I can do to.
And I think that's what I want to get rid of,
Yeah.
because in this world where like we already have one big enemy, which is like demons and our own thoughts and everything, we are now putting it to other people. Does that make sense? That we're
Mm.
like tearing down other people,
Yeah.
to be something that we think is right, or
Yeah.
we think is
like
good.
we need to be able to learn to be that, but also build others up
Exactly,
at the same time.
at the
and
same
not
time.
need to. You're my ops. You know,
Yeah, it's
that we're
true.
going.
Because I like what Dan said at the end. He's just like, yeah, man, you can like lift 100, like bench 100 kgs, but like, what does it look like if you're disrespecting like women? You know what I mean? Like you're going the total opposite way at times. And I think that the self-control really matters, where it's like you have to have that balance in terms of like building people up, but also challenging each other at the
Mm.
same time. So I think that's what really masculinity and like dudes should be doing in their communities, not like trying to one up each other or trying to like find competition,
Yeah.
but actually like fostering like a growing environment where like you're just building each other up and just like going for something that's more life giving.
Mm.
Because like I wouldn't want to be hashing like it all out all the time, because we're always just assuming things. I'd rather like have a conversation and go from there. You know what I mean? Rather than do it constantly.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess that's for me at least.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's good.
But anything else before we kind of end?
No, I don't
No,
have,
I think
I
it's
don't
good,
have
man.
final thoughts. As always, my thoughts are all out there. so-
I guess like what do you reckon? What would you recommend like a young guy?
yeah, I guess
A young guy that's
takeaway,
like
yeah?
I guess like maybe he wants to just like share to his friends, or just like like hash it out with their friends or something like that, how can he like gain more from his friends, like in terms of like to be I don't know how to reword it
for
right,
me-
but you know
no,
what I
I get
mean?
you're saying. I
Yeah.
think for that situation is like the question is like how can you encourage a younger man to like be vulnerable with his dudes, right?
Mm.
For me, I think in any case it's really hard for anyone to start that in
Mm.
their groups, no matter what advice we give.
Mm.
I think the best way to go about it is to find a mentor, maybe like another male, a mentor that you can grab some good advice from and learn how to like be vulnerable through him, and then through that you kind of just like you know what I mean, like it's like a practical way to like bring that into your friendship groups. Like like you can get advice from people and stuff as well, that works as well. But I think an active thing that they could do, one tip I would give is just find a mentor like that can help you down that path. That's pretty much it for me.
For me, honestly, the first step I'll always take is get you to reevaluate your friendships. Like, I think you have to look at your group and to be honest, right? It's like, are these guys building me up? Are we just here to, have a good time? Because there are certain friendships for that. Not every friendship is like, I have to emotionally like connect with you. Some are just honestly just for a good time, but they're not like your core, like your deep like friends that you will journey life with. But the ones that you do call that group where you will journey life with, you have to be realistic and reevaluate, right? Because if they're not on the same wavelength as you or they don't want to, then there's something that you got to figure out what you want to do. I'm not saying shop for friends. I'm not saying do this, but when you dig and when you build, these are things that you want to think about. If they're not good, not to say good people, but if they're not a good influence on your life and they're pulling you further away from God and pulling you away to an unhealthy mindset of like who you are and what you are as a guy, then that's something that you have to be honest with yourself with. And it will come down to you figuring out, do I want to stay because it's just comfortable and easy, and I'm scared to kind of see what's out there, potentially maybe worse, maybe better, or are you going to stand and be like, okay, I know that this is unhealthy for me. I need to find a better group of friends, find a healthier like connection between other dudes and other places that I can grow to be what God says a man should be.
Yeah.
So so that's
good.
probably one thing
I think
would
both
say.
your points go hand in hand because if you want to be a better person, you're not growing in a certain area, you can go to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And if they see you're growing, they're actually going to be more interested in you as well.
How you are and how you think, all that environment plays such a big part into it. Like we would not be like this if we weren't all kind of like in a similar environment. If we're completely different, we would think differently. We would have different thoughts, and like the way that we would carry ourselves would be so different as well.
True.
Big proverb right there.
Yeah.
Bad company corrupts good character. So
Oh, there you go.
yeah.
But Ethan, close it off. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
But I hope you dudes can be dudes in front of your other dudes and
Yes.
still feel like a dude.
Yeah, and it doesn't make you less of a dude.
Yeah, come on now.
All right. Well,
Later, dudes.
we hope you enjoy this and stay fresh, my
Stay
dudes.
fresh, bro. Yeah.